Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another MAMG Let's Play of Root Double. This is not where I left off, but I wanted to make a point of this menu screen because I didn't notice before that there is a chair just demolished by an axe, and I don't know what it means, but it's there. It's totally a thing. So maybe that's gonna come into play at some point. Maybe some people are gonna go crazy. I don't know, but I'm gonna go ahead and load and we will dive back into this story because I'm curious. Stuff's happened. I want to know how we can save these people. Kazami grimly put her PDA away. The rest of the group, full of panic, all began speaking at the same time. Yeah, we're not gonna be doing too good. I'm gonna be honest with you. Why are they staring at me? Oh, what was that? Oh, okay. Apparently if I hit spacebar, it just takes away the text. That's good to know. That means I can make thumbnails a lot easier. Anyways, staying in an environment like that for 9 hours, it was an insane idea to all of them. And it didn't look like they could expect the reinforcements that Kazami had been counting on. Not anytime soon, that is. Watase then spoke with a cracked voice. It's horrible. I'm sure it's horrible. Ukita hesitantly looked around at everyone else, then sighed. That's fine, sure. Make it easy on me. With those words as a signal, Ukita began to quietly explain. Okay, easy enough.
通常そんなことが起こらないように原子炉の中で燃焼している核燃料は絶えず冷却されるべきなのだが、冷却が適切になされなかった場合、炉心の耐熱性を上回る熱量が発生し、原子炉そのものが破損する。そして灼熱した核燃料が外部に放出される。
Yes, that's not good at all.
N エリアで起こってる大火災ってやつの原因はそれか。
ああ、おそらく莫大な熱量を持つ核燃料が周囲の可燃物を炎上させたんだ。
Makes sense.
溶け落ちた核燃料は摂氏3000度超の凄まじい。
It's a little spicy.
あらゆるものを燃やしてしまう。
今も火災が続いているということは。Probably
the structure of the building is not gonna hold.
そう考えて間違いはないだ。自動消火システムが破壊されていることから見るに爆発なども起きている可能性がある。核燃料が何らかの水分に触れれば水蒸気爆発などが起こるからね。N エリアは灼熱と爆風の地獄と化しているはずさ。
A stiff smile rose to Ukita's face as he said all this.
そして核燃料とは言うまでもなく放射性物質だ。原子炉から放出されたそれは放射線を周囲にまき散らす。
The longer it goes, the worse it gets.
そう、チェルノブイリ原発事故というのを知ってるかね。
いや。
The name didn't ring any bells to him. Ukita sighed and continued.
もう半世紀近くも前にロシアで起きた人類史上最大のクライシスだよ。
I've heard bits and pieces, but I can't really say that I'm very well educated on that either.
原子力発電所で使用されていた原子炉がメルトダウンし、水蒸気爆発が発生。10トンにも及ぶ放射性物質が原子炉建屋の外にまき散らされた。
Pretty bad.
これは広島型原爆の500倍の量に当たり、それによる死者は膨大な数に上る。原発職員や事故処理に当たった消防士など3000人が死亡。そしてその後も増え続けた。
Cool, so we're like in that inner circle right now is what you're saying, huh?
最終的な死者数は 今となってはわからないが数十万人にも及ぶとさえ言われている。
数十万？なんでそんなに死者が？
その原因がまさに放射性物質なのさ。死の灰とも呼ばれるそれは爆発と火災により空に舞い上がって雨とともに地表に降り注ぐ。
Yeah, it's not just the one time. It's continuously bad news.
わかるかね。真に恐ろしいのはこの点だ。今この地下に満ちている放射線が周辺地域全体に広がるという点が。
その死の灰ってのが漏れると施設の外も汚染されちまうってことか？
その通りだ。事実チェルノブイリ原発の周辺は以後900年にわたり人の住めない土地となった。故にメルトダウン発生時の緊急処置というのは過去に国内外で発生した N 災害の教訓を生かし放射性物質の拡散を抑えることを第一義に考える風潮が強まった。だからこの施設ではメルトダウンが起きたら全ての隔壁が
So we have some safety measures in place, but also a lot of them failed. Like, this is definitely a planned attack, right?
ケース N というのはつまり隔壁強制閉鎖を知らせるコードだよ。
そういうことだったのか。
It was true that if the nuclear reactor was shielded by the unparalleled strength of the composite steel plates, then it'd be able to easily handle a meltdown in the rare case of one. Also, typically, the amnesia route for a video game protagonist is not the best. When it comes to a game that's this, like, heavy in terminology and what you need to know, it's nice to have a character who is completely clueless in case you don't know anything about, like, nuclear meltdowns and that kind of thing. So I can give it a pass, at least at this point. If the facility had been made of, say, normal reinforced concrete instead, then it would have most likely collapsed completely in the event of a steam explosion. So perhaps they made the facility into what was essentially one giant heavy metal box, so that all they'd have to do in times of emergency was simply close the lid, sealing everything inside into an airtight container. Though he could understand the logic behind that.
閉じ込められた人たちはどうなるんだ？
That's us. We're gonna say bye bye.
そうよ。脱出口はないの？エアダクトとか今こうして呼吸ができるということは空気の通り道はあるんでしょ？
いや、エアダクト内の各所には放射性物質ろ過装置が設置されている。地上に続く箇所や各エリアを隔てるところにね。当然人は通れない。エアダクトからの脱出は不可能だ。
Fantastic.
そこまで念入りに？
そうとも。どこの原子力関連施設もそうだが、
I
安全
mean, 面
には極めて配慮している。
it's not to trap people in, it's to help the radiation from getting out, right? So they have to think of every possibility.
今このラボの地下フロアは外界と完全に隔絶されている。灰一粒外に漏らさないように。
Yeah, exactly.
だから先ほどの通信で言っていたように AD を投与しながら隔壁の解放を待つしか。
But before Ukita could finish his sentence, Jun cut in.
待ってよ、浮田さん。悠長に待ってるわけにはいかないみたいだよ。
なんだね。
Jun responded by taking her Procyon out of her breast
こ
pocket.
のプロキオンの数値見て。今は1605ミリシーベルトになってる。だけど隔壁封鎖の直後はまだ100ミリシーベルト前後だった。
Dang!
場所によって多少上下するみたいだけど、徐々に数値は上がってるんだよ。
何？
Now that he thought about it, she was right. The reading he'd seen when he first looked at the Procyon was about 1100 MSV. The reading really had increased in the short amount of time that had passed since then.
どういうことだ、浮田さん？なんで数値が上がるんだ？
施設外に放射性物質を拡散させないようにはなってても、施設内は何の対策もしてないの？
いや、その僕にもわからん。
Ukita's like, I don't know either.
わからないって。
Because I mean, like, he doesn't know everything, right? He only knows certain things.
各エリアを隔てるセキュリティゲートも各駅と同様放射性物質の拡散を防ぐために役立つはずなんだが、しかし例の爆発や火災のせいで ゲートや内壁があちこち破損しているのかもしれない。ひょっとしたらエアダクト内のろ過装置も壊れているのかも。
So there's a bunch of different possibilities, what you're saying.
何よそれ。安全面への配慮が効いて呆れるわ。
Enna's eyebrows raised sharply as she accosted Ukita.
人がまだ地下に残っているのに勝手に各駅を封鎖しておいて、しかも開けられない。放射線はどんどん強くなる。電話も無線通信も使えない。エレベーターも動かなければ消火システムも役立たず。
Okay. Whose side do I want to be on for this? That neither of them are really wrong, right? But again, I was looking at, I saw the comments about like the system and like, I think I get it, but this is how you make choices. You know, you don't just choose an option. This is like your choice system. So I guess I'll side with her a little bit more. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. But I don't understand what the actual like ratio is, right? Because like, there's not a, like, can you just max out everybody? What would be the downside to that, I guess? But I'm gonna make Anna a little bit higher than Keiji. Sure.
どこを見ても穴だらけじゃないの。何が放射能漏洩防止システムよ。
確かに安全面に多少の不備があったことは認めるが、システムの暴走や爆発などは想定外の出来事で、
その想定外の出来事が起きないようにするのが安全面への配慮でしょ。
She has a point, right? Like, I know she's upset and I know she's like laying into Ukita, but she has a point.
先生の言う通りだ。沖田さん、想定外ってのは要するに想定する気がなかったってことじゃないのか。結局俺たちの安全はどうなるんだ。
しかし僕はこのラボの職員だが、セキュリティ関連の責任者というわけではないんだぞ。怒るのもわかるが、少し落ち着いてくれたまえ。
落ち着けって？落ち着いていられるわけがないじゃない。私だけならまだしも、私の生徒まで閉じ込められているのに。
Yeah, we gotta find her students too, don't we? Okay. Taken aback, Watase glanced at the monitors again. Those three were also stuck in this unforgivingly harsh environment. With no one having to come to their aid and pursued by the fires and fear of the radiation around them, they were no doubt still running around trying to find a way out.
せめて一刻も早く彼らの元に AD を届けなくちゃ。
Okay, who am I supposed to be with on this? Back, I guess. Yes. Enna sounded on the verge of tears. She may have looked harsh on the surface, but when she came down to it, she really was a teacher. She couldn't help but be worried about her students. Yeah, I'm gonna side with her a little bit more. Why not? Oh god. I don't know if I want to max out, but we'll just go with this. Sure. But that's... No sooner had this thought hit him than did Kazami speak for the both of them.
いえ、椿山さん、そこにもまた一つ問題があります。彼らと合流できたとしても、全員が生き延びるためには1時間ごとに9本の AD が必要でしょう。
True.
ですが、我々に残された AD はわずか5本しかありません。彼らに届けるどころか、このままでは我々6人だけでも次の1時間を生き延びることもできないんですよ。
Everyone gasped.
5本ってそれしかないの？
申し訳ありません。このような事態を予想していなかったものですから。
準備が足りなすぎるわよ。あなたたちレスキュー隊なんでしょ？
申し訳ありません。
I don't want to get mad at Kazami though. What's happening? Watase grit his teeth as he listened to the cycle of blame and apologies, questioning and antagonism fly around him. Could this situation possibly get any worse? Oh yeah, we're still like in the first opening hours. They need 6 AD per hour to keep the entire group safe from radiation exposure. And they would need one more for each survivor that they rescued. It hadn't felt like they'd been so low on AD right after they saved Yuri. But with Teach and Mr. Ukita with us now, we've finally come up short. He just didn't know the situation had gotten so bad, nor did he have the time to think about it. But their next course of action was clear.
つまり俺たちは3名の要救助者を捜索しつつ人数分の AD を見つけなきゃいけないってわけか。
ええ、それもできるだけ早くです。
Okay, I'm glad she's on board with it. Kazami looked back at the monitors.
彼らの累積被曝量が致死量を超える前に。
累積被曝量。
Kazami quickly answered Watase's question.
放射線を受けた量というものは体の中に蓄積していきます。その合計値が累積被曝量です。プロキオンに表示されるのはその場所にいた時1時間あたりどれくらい被曝するかの量。
But it adds up, right?
つまり現在の環境下では1時間あたり1605ミリシーベルト被曝するということです。累積被曝量が2000ミリシーベルトに至った場合、致死率は約 5%、4000ミリシーベルトなら致死率は約 50%、そして8000ミリシーベルトに至れば 99% 死亡します。つまり累積被曝量が上がるほど死のリスクも加速度的に高まるのです。そして一度累積した被曝量はすぐには減ることはありません。
Which meant that if they didn't get themselves any AD in this environment, their cumulative exposure would reach 4,000 microsieverts? I think it's how they... I don't know how to pronounce that. In 2.5 hours and 8,000 MSV in 5 hours. If we don't find more AD, we'll all be dead before the lockdown can be lifted. Ukita then spoke up as this thought crossed Watase's mind.
だが AD は4000ミリシーベルトまでの放射線量をほぼ完全に無害化する。さらに8000ミリシーベルトまでの環境下でも延命効果は極めて高い。 AD さえ投与しておけば累積被曝量は増加しない。
Okay, but we still need AD. That's the main
それは間違い
thing.
ないのか。できれば確証が欲しいんだが。
信じがたいだろうが全面的に信用してくれ。 AD は我がラボの最高傑作だ。
Okay.
安定ヨウ素材、キレート剤、プルシアンブルーなど9種の高放射性物質薬に医療用ナノマシンを加えた。
Of course, nanomachines are in every video game, right?
それは静脈から注射することで全身を巡り、細胞、血液、神経、遺伝子を保護する。胃や肺などの粘膜にも3分で行き渡り、放射性物質の吸収を完全にカット。さらに各放射性物質と化合し無害化した上で汗、尿などとともに体外に排出する。その劇的な有効性を知っているから僕もこんなに落ち着いているんだ。
It sounds a little too good to be true. Right? It's not like a miracle medicine, right?
そうか。
Ukita's voice and expression both seemed totally honest. So basically, they could survive so long as they kept administering AD. But their bodies would get closer and closer to death with each passing moment, once its effects wore off.
じゃあこんなところでごちゃごちゃ言い合ってる場合じゃないね。
June's right.
施設内に残っている AD をかき集めて夏彦くんたちの元にも届けなきゃ。
なあ浮田さん、監視カメラを使って要救助者を探せないか。
そうだよ。もしくは館内放送で呼び出すとか。
いやそれが放送は使えなくなってるし、カメラも
Everything's broken? Just everything? Really?
壊れたってどうして？
I broke all of them.
火災や爆発の影響だろうね。映像記録も多くのデータが消えている。残っているいくつかの映像から察するに彼らは第6エリア方面へ移動していたようだが。
第6エリアか。
Meaning they'd been heading to an area much further ahead than this one. But just knowing that was enough.
むしろちょうどいい。あの3人以外にも要救助者がいる可能性がある。その要救助者を全て助けるためには全エリアを隅々まで捜索する必要があるからな。
ええ、第1エリアと第2エリアはすでに捜索済みです。この第3エリアから第6エリアまで捜索しながら進めば全てのエリアを捜索したことになります。
Maybe we'll find more AD.
堂島先輩や檜山先輩もそのどこかにいるはずだよ。 あの2人もそれぞれ支給された AD を持ってるし、
Yep.
隊長と並んで有能な人たちだ。合流できれば心強いよ。
Gotta think positive, right?
よし、立花、森部、早速行動を開始しよう。
Anna then turned to them with a firm voice.
私も行くわ。
全員で捜索しながら進んだ方が効率がいいだろう。
しかし民間の方々に手伝ってもらうわけには。そういうことを言ってる場合じゃないでしょ。
そうとも、それに僕はラボ内のことにも詳しい。多少は役にも立てるだろう。
Should we bring everybody along? Achiever, Loyalist, Peacemaker. Okay. Kazami definitely knows what she's doing. That's for sure. Yuri, I don't want to like doubt her, but we'll put her here, and then Anna. We'll put Yuri and Anna together, and Kazami has a stronger say. Okay.
私も何もできないかもしれないけど頑張ります。
Even Ukita and Yuri were siding with Anna.
いや、ここからは立花の言う通り、俺たちレスキューの3人で捜索しよう。
We're probably all gonna die.
3人？たった3人でこの広いラボを捜索するというのかね。
そうよ、そんなの時間がかかりすぎるわ。
Jun cut in just as everyone began concentrating their complaints on Watase.
隊長、副隊長、今はルールより実を取ろう。みんなもやる気になってくれてるし。
確かにそうせざるを得ませんね。
Kazami nodded after a moment's hesitation. And thus, six wills became one to accomplish the same goal: to survive. And also to rescue the survivors. They had to act as soon as possible in order to fulfill these tasks.
だったら急ごう。具体的にどう捜索する？
プロキオンもセキュリティカードも2つしかありませんから、ここは二手に分かれて捜索しましょう。
チーム分けは？
Oh god. Oh
バランスを
god.
考えて、まずは私と隊長とユーリさんが組みましょう。
Oh, okay, they're gonna pick for me. I was like, I don't know who I should be with.
了解だ。
わかりました。
Oh, Yuri, it'll be okay.
じゃあこっちは私と椿山さんと浮田さんだね。
え
僕もいろんなしだ。
え。では我々は内周島を捜索しますので、森部のチームは外周島をお願いします。捜索対象は全部で4つ。要救助者と AD、 そしてできれば第5エリアに進むためのレベル5のセキュリティカードと脱出経路です。
I'm down with this plan.
AD は鉄製のメディカルボックスに入ってます。
Oh, do I actually have to
通
find
路など
them?
にも落ちているかもしれませんので、入念にチェックを。
That'll be fun.
時間が差し迫っているので急いで。しかし決して焦らず、身の安全に重々留意してください。それでは皆さん、よろしくお願いします。
Let's do it. And so, with Kazami's words having sparked fire in them all, the group ran out of the surveillance room. Watase, Kazami, and Yuri immediately began searching Area 3's inner ring. They first ran into the nearest room. It was a somewhat large laboratory. Deeper inside was a space that seemed to be for a rest area, a guard's room, or possibly a conference room.
では捜索開始。時間は1分でお願いします。
1 minute? Oh god. The group split up and searched the room. Though they didn't find the survivors or a medical box there, something still caught their eyes. A notepad was lying on the floor. Something had been written hastily on it. 918 Sprinkler System Inspection. The inspectors, Takashita Urabe Misono, will gather in the engine room at 1 p.m. Make sure that the system's been manually shut off before the inspection.
消火システム。点検ってまさかこれのせいで停止してるのか？
Kazami ran up to him and took a look at the note.
いや、日付が違います。今日は9月16日ですが、しかし このエンジンルームというところに行けば消火システム停止の原因もわかるかもしれません。
場所はわかるか？
存じません。今後の捜索で見つかれば良いのですが。
Okay, fair enough. But though they hadn't gained much information, it was still progress.
次に行こ
The group finished up their search of the room in precisely 1 minute and then headed for the next one. They entered the hallway and went next door. But what they found was no ordinary room, but rather an elevator hall. The survivors were nowhere to be found, and all the elevator lights were off.
第1第2エリアもそうでしたから、このラボのエレベーターは前期止まっているようですね。
エレベーターシャフトを通って地上に出ることは？
残念ながらシャフト内にも地上に続く部位には隔壁があります。
う。それも放射能漏洩防止システムの一環か。
With the elevators out, the group had no choice but to move on. Their next destination was the connecting passageway that led to Area 4. Whoa! But it was buried in a mountain of rubble.
この瓦礫、メルトダウン前に起きてたっていう爆発の影響か。
おそらくそうです。
通れそうにないですね。
Nah, I don't think so. Even though you're tiny, Yudi, I don't think you can fit through there. Though they'd finally gotten their hands on a level 4 card, it meant nothing in the face of death. This? It appeared they'd need to find another way to Area 4.
ここにいても無意味です。次に行きましょう。
Kazami's just like going through them. The group went back to Area 3 and headed towards Area N this time. And when they got to the Area N connecting passageway, they were greeted by a door with a security terminal stationed next to it. The words Level N were engraved on the terminal.
レベル N。
どうやら N エリアに入るためには特別なカードが必要らしいですね。
Perhaps Area N had the highest security level in Labo. But it was the fires blazing just beyond that gate that kept them from freedom.
なんとか N エリアに入って火災を止められないかな。
何言ってるんですか。それは危険すぎます。たとえ鎮火することができたとしても致死的被爆は免れないでしょう。
そうか。くそ。
Watase tried putting his Procyon close to the gate. What? Only for the reading to start shooting up astronomically.
2406ミリシーベルトだと。
Ooh.
一気に1000近くも。
危険です。
Yeah, I was gonna say, maybe don't be so close to the door. The group frantically ran away from the door. I don't blame you. Just then, the Procyon's reading went back to normal.
ゲート越しでもこんなありさまかよ。
鉛などでできたゲートであれば放射線は完全に遮断できるはずなのですが、周囲の壁や天井などに破損部があるのかもしれませんね。
No matter how strong the gate was, there was always the possibility that there were cracks in other spots. Though they were invisible to the naked eye, there was atomic dust and radiation leaking through them.
なるほど。徐々に数値が上昇していくわけだ。
いずれにせよ、このゲートの向こうに溶融した原子炉があるのは間違いないですね。
Yeah, so maybe stay away from it? An area of death, swirling with hellfire and radiation. If the area around the gate was that bad even when shut, then they could only imagine just how much radiation would engulf them when it opened up. It really would be suicide to go into that place. Kazami continued as Watase held his breath in horror.
隊長、ともかくこれで内周塔の捜索は終わりです。外周塔を手伝いましょう。
ああ。
The group nodded and ran off towards the outer ring. But Jun's angry shouts filled their ears the moment they reached the connecting passage to the outer ring.
素人は素直に言うこと聞きなって。
何よ煙くらい。レスキューがへたれてんじゃないわよ。
Guys? Jun and Enna were engaged in a fierce argument. Ukita watched the two of them with a bewildered look on his face. He looks super bummed.
どうした？
森部、 何を騒いでいるのですか？
あ、副隊長。この先の外周灯に煙が漂ってたんだ。火の気があるっぽいんだよ。
Okay, I'm gonna side with Moribe, of course. You kidding me? Of course I'm gonna side with her. She knows what she's doing. I don't even need any extra context.
でも部屋がたくさんあって火元がわからないから、椿山さんたちを安全なところで待機させようとしたんだけど。
バカ言ってんじゃないわよ。火の気があるからこそ全員でさっさと捜索すべきでしょ。
とまあ互いに一歩も引かなくてね。
Watase thought for a second about who he should side with, and then
先生、落ち着けって。普通に考えて火の気のあるところに素人が入るのは危険だろ。
because like there's a lot of times where you don't know there's a fire, you know, you're supposed to check the doors certain ways and things like that, and she might not know that, right? She's not trained to do that. Also, there was the whole like spraying the water like as they were covering the fire and like that kind of thing that I wouldn't have thought of. So she knows what she's doing. I'm gonna trust her.
なんですって？
いや、記憶喪失で現在素人同然の隊長もこう言ってんだよ。常識的に考え
Look, you don't have to put me down, okay? I just supported you.
火器のある場に一般人を同行させるわけにはいかないんだよ。
二人とも何言ってるの？煙って言ったってほんのちょっと。
But before Anna could say any more, Kazami sharply cut in.
椿山さん、死にたいんですか？
Dang.
死にたくなければ黙って言うことを聞いてください。
Oh, snap! Kazami laying the smackdown. Anna instinctively gasped at Kazami's harsh words.
私はただ捜索を手伝おうと。
I know, but still, you're a teacher, you have to compose yourself, right? Like, if your students were here, you wouldn't want them to see you like this. You gotta hold it together.
言葉がきつかったことは謝ります。椿山さんのお気持ちも嬉しく思います。ですが、どんな小さな火も侮ってはいけません。災害現場では我々の判断を信じてください。我々の任務は全員を無事にここから脱出させることなんです。だからどうか。
Kazami bowed her head with those words. Anna looked away from her uncomfortably.
分かったわよ。プロにお任せするわ。
Thank you.
ありがとうございます。
I'm so glad I have such wonderful subordinates. Watase straightened his back with a crunch at those words.
ということは俺たちの出番か。
Yeah, I mean, we don't know what we're doing either.
そうだね。隊長の復帰第一戦だ。勘を取り戻すためにはちょうどいいよ。
椿山さんと浮田さん、優里さんは南周島で待機してください。見たところ南周島に火災の兆候は見られませんが、周囲の安全は常に確認してください。
I mean, because it could even be radiation leaking through. You know, like we just saw that door, like had radiation, so you never know what's there.
任せたまえ。
了解よ。いってらっしゃい。
All right, bye. After the rest of the group had finished wishing them luck, the rescue workers headed for the outer ring. Area 3, Outer Ring B2. This block had multiple doors lining the hallway on both
確
sides.
かに少し煙ってるな。
He didn't see any traces of fire at first glance, but the entire hallway was filled with thin smoke.
しかしこの施設空調も機能してないのか。
基本的には無事なんだけど、壊れてるところもある。ここみたいにね。
おそらくは火災の影響によるものでしょう。
Kazami looked around the block after saying this, then continued.
それより隊長、この塔の捜索にあたり一つ注意点があります。
注意点？
扉を開ける前にサーモグラフィーで扉が熱を持ってないか
Fair.
確認してください。扉が赤もしくは黄色で表示された場合はそこは絶対に開けないように。
なぜ？
バックドラフトってのが起きるんだよ。
Oh yeah, that backdraft is a
閉
thing.
鎖された部屋で火が燃えると、やがてその火は部屋内の酸素を食い尽くしてくすぶり始める。 そこで扉を開けると部屋内に新鮮な空気が急速に流れ込んで
I actually went to a Universal Studios Japan ride that had a backdraft, and it was actually really funny because it was me and a buddy, which I don't think he was in any of the wedding pictures that we showed, but he was there. But we went, and it was obviously Japan's version of Universal Studios, and the guy who was like hosting the ride just could not pronounce backdraft. It was kind of funny, but I mean, like, he was doing his best, but it was like big drift, and we're just like, oh god, this is amazing. So
ドカーン
kaboom indeed.
と爆発的に燃焼するわけ。
Okay.
この塔には火は見えないけど煙が見える。ってことはどっかの部屋で火がくすぶってる可能性があるんだよ。
Okay.
ですから隊長がちゃんと温度をチェックしてくださらなければ我々全員が吹き飛ぶかもしれません。
Okay, so what am I doing here? Okay, I'm gonna lower myself. I'm gonna humble myself. Yeah, definitely follow their lead. I may be their leader, but I trust them enough to know when something's dangerous, so.
責任重大だよ。大丈夫？
なるほどな。
なるほどなって隊長ちゃんと分かってんの？
I'm gonna save, because maybe I don't. Maybe I don't know what's happening. Decide. I think this is fine, right? I'm trusting them over myself. Hang on. I'm gonna wait and see what other topics come up, because it went from yellow to red, so.
消防はチームワーク。3人が意思を統一して緊密に連携せねばならないのですよ。
Okay. But Watase didn't feel the need to be intimidated by every little thing they said. Wait, disregard? No, I don't want to disregard. Hold on a second. That's not what I meant to do.
なるほどなって。
Hang on. Okay.
隊長ちゃんと分かってんの？
Okay, I guess we all... I thought it meant his opinion was going to be lower than theirs, but that's not what it means. It means that he doesn't trust them as much. Okay. No, that's not what I'm doing.
消防はチームワーク。
すまん。任せてくれ。
Okay, there we go. Determined not to let them down, Watase re-geared his mind back to the task on hand. Okay, that was like my bad. I was thinking it was like forcefulness as to like who in an argument gets the right, like the final say. And I forgot that's not how the system works. My bad. He checked his surroundings to find 10 doors lining the hall. They all felt like traps to him. Explosive booby traps just waiting to be tripped.
これは慎重にやらなきゃまずいよな。
Mm-hmm.
この扉のどれもが開ければ火が吹き出る危険性をはらんでる。
That's why you gotta check it with the scanner.
当然です。しかしこのどれかに AD や要救助者がいるかもしれません。
それに火元を放置しておくわけにもいかない。結局勇気出して一個一個開けなきゃいけないのさ。
Okay.
決して焦らず。しかし急いで捜索をしましょう。
Yeah, that's the paradox that I have to deal with, right?
わかった。
And with that, the group began searching each and every room. They stood in front of a door at the end of the outer ring, with Kazumi pointing a fire hose right at it. Watase turned on the PDA's IRT function and checked the door for heat just as he'd been told.
扉は青い。熱はないな。
了解。扉開けます。
June announced that as she opened the door. What? Watase braced himself the moment the door opened. Don't do that to me. But all that waited for them was a trim and tidy office.
火の気はなしか。
So I guess like if you disagree with them, because it did turn red, so I think they could actually die. So there is going to be fire in here. So take that, people who weren't listening to us.
要救助者の姿もなしっぽいね。
では AD 等の捜索を30秒で行きましょう。
Got it. The group quickly searched the room in accordance with those orders. It wasn't long before they found a box.
これがメディカルボックスか。
Alone a desire is what AD stands for? Watase ran up to it and looked inside. But it was empty. It appeared that someone had already taken its contents.
外れか。
残念ながらカードもないね。
では次の部屋へ。効率を上げていきますよ。
Let's get that score down, shall we? The room opposite of that one was a stairwell. Why can't I read? Unlike the automatic sliding doors that other rooms used, this one had a fire door with heavy hinges. But when they opened it, whoa, all they saw was a collapsed staircase.
しかしなんで階段が崩れてるんだ。火の気もないのに。
火災によるものではないようですね。九段の
There's definitely something going on here.
いいから次に行こうよ。テキパキとさ。
Alright, fine, Jun. The group continued the search at Jun's urging. However, no matter how many rooms they checked after that, the only things they found were empty medical boxes. To make matters worse, there were no sign of any of the survivors, to say the least of the source of the fire. They even checked the bathrooms, but that turned out to be a fruitless endeavor. We need to find some AD. Waltase was starting to get more and more impatient. The last time the group had taken any AD was around 9:20 a.m., but his watch showed that it was almost 10 a.m. now. We don't even have half an hour. The survivors and security cards were important too, of course, but they wouldn't be able to live past the next hour without some AD. This is all me and my amnesia's fault. I keep wasting everyone's time by demanding all those explanations from them. They needed to get their hands on some AD quickly in order to make up for that mistake. The group approached the final door in the outer ring as Watase thought this. And, like usual, he used the IRT scanner to check the door.
熱はないな。
おかしいですね。煙は
I don't know, it said the choice was gonna lead to like a death if I chose wrong, so...
とにかく了解。扉開けます。
Jun then moved to press the button for the door. They'd been through this routine 10 times already, and as a result, Watase was probably nowhere near as focused as he'd been when he at first because he'd gotten used to it. That's why he didn't notice it sooner. What? That unlike all the other doors, the IRT scanner was showing that this otherwise blue one had a slight yellow tinge to it.
まずい。開けるな、森部。
But it was too late. Oh no. Jun had already hit the button, causing the door to slide open. Don't you kill her! At that moment, the group all felt something like the air being sucked inward. Jun immediately jumped away from the door, fire spewing forth from the room only a mere second later. Oh, I swear, we better not kill her. Watase tried to dodge it, but his body wouldn't move. Oh no, not Kazami! No sooner had Watase heard that shout than were he and the rest of the group blown away by the blast. Am I dead? He wondered that for a second, but no, he was still alive. However, he also felt like something was crushing his body. Watase then opened his eyes. I'm okay, is everybody else okay? Only to see Kazami shouting at him and helping him up. Save. Yeah, this chapter's called Backdraft. I knew something was gonna happen. It seems she knocked him out of the way just in the nick of time.
大丈夫だ。しかしこれは。
His surroundings had transformed into a sea of flames in the blink of an eye. The fire that had spewed from the room was spreading all the way out into the hall. If this keeps up, then even Tachibana will die. But it was at that moment he heard a voice across the sea of fire. Yeah, I'm good. Watase looked to that voice to find Jun looking at him and Kazami from the other side of the flames. Watase quickly shouted back.
森部、こっちに消火ホースをよこしてくれ。
Jun picked up the hose lying in the fire and tossed it with an underhand throw. The metal nozzle slid across the floor and stopped right in front of Watase. The fire spread even further during those few seconds, filling the hallway with black smoke. Just standing burned his skin and his lungs hurt every time he took a breath.
いけません隊長、ここは私が。
大丈夫だ。このくらいの炎、俺にだって。
Watase forced himself to step towards the direction of the flames, then turned the nozzle of the hose. Watase was caught off guard for a moment. The water pressure was far greater than he'd expected. So he'd used all his might to keep the hose under control, knowing it'd most likely shoot right out of his hands if he let his guard down for even a second. maybe the smoke's getting in my lungs as well. The hose's jet stream ran right into the brightly burning fire. However, it's not going out. Although the steam was rising here and there, the force of the flames didn't weaken in the slightest. Watase blindly swung the hose. Despite his efforts, the fire only grew stronger and stronger and swooped down on Watase with intense ferocity. The flames swayed, briefly licking out his left hand. The heat shot through his gloves and burned the back of his hand. He then dropped the hose on instinct. Oh no! He frantically tried to pick up the hose. Oh god, I'm so nervous now! I'm just gonna head back and we'll see what happens. But then Kazami grabbed his collar and violently pulled him back. I think I'm okay. Watashi shouted back and picked up the hose. I don't think that's what I wanted. I think we're gonna die. But Watase brushed aside Kazami's warnings. It's okay. When it comes down to it, I'm still a rescue worker. I can mature if I keep on trying on Tachibana's, if I can't... Let me try that again. My head is racing right now because I'm like, wait, I thought if the bar was up, that means I trust her. And then if I turned it down, then I would fight against her. But I don't understand the system, apparently. I can't mature if I keep relying on Tachibana's help every time. Watase managed to convince himself of this. No. And went charging into the room that was still spewing flames. I'm going to die. His hair and face were scorched by atrocious flames. Ignore it. All of this will be out soon. Yeah, when you die. Watase's plan was simple. Get rid of the flames from their source. However, they're not going out. The flames just kept surging forward one after another regardless of how much water he doused them with. Watase trembled in the fear in the face of this endless calamity. He could hear Kazami's screams coming outside of the room sealed off by fire. Oh no! The flames ran up his body. Everything in front of him was engulfed in orange. His hair suddenly burst into flames. And with that, his skin and his flesh were hideously scorched. Yeah, I bet! An inhuman scream escaped from Watase's mouth. He dropped the hose without even thinking about it. Now assaulted by heat, agony, and fear, Watase writhed grotesquely where he stood. Even his vocal cords were soon burned into a crisp, leaving him unable to even scream. So that's how death is handled in this game, huh? Kazami screamed something, but the only thing Watase heard was the fire blazing around him. And in the blink of an eye, even his consciousness was incinerated by the hellfire. Okay. Whew. Well, that's not what I was hoping for. Bad ending 13, the conceited. The result of Watase overestimating his skills. You may be able to avert his fate by setting Kazami's senses higher than Watase's. I'm glad it gives me advice. But like I said, I thought it was the relationship gauge. Not really a confidence thing, right? Knower of despair. That's me. Load. Okay, so This one, yes. So I need to make sure his is lower. Just make it nothing. Okay. We'll see what this does. Sign of doubt? Okay. But it was in Kazami. Okay, she grabbed him. There we go. As he said this, Watase noticed that there was something caught on his right hand. What? It was a locket with a broken chain. Kazami had apparently dropped it when she tackled him earlier. Watase quickly put this in his pocket and looked at the sight that lay in front of him. Like this, ladies and gentlemen, this is how you do it, alright? Not like me. Kazami nimbly handled the hose as she told Watase this in a calm voice. She aimed the jet stream right at the edge of the fire, pushing the flames back. Kazami replied to Watase's praise with a cool and collected tone. Dang! Okay. So it is a personal confidence thing. Kazami quickly swung the hose as she fired off that cold answer. The water swelled like an animal and fell into the fire in front of them. The flames had been hardly burning with such fury earlier were now growing smaller and smaller with each passing moment. And soon enough, they were gone completely. Whew! Oh my god, that was intense. Okay, so yeah, death is basically around every corner. Kazami turned off the water with that declaration. Jun quickly came running back over and called out to her teammates. Uh-oh. All of a sudden, she grabbed Watase by the collar.
なぜちゃんとサーモグラフィーを確認せず OK を出したのですか。
すまない。AD を早く手に入れなければと思い焦ってしまったんだ。
That's how accidents happen.
焦ったから失敗したとでも。
おお。
そんな甘い考えでこの仕事が務まるとお思いですか。そのざまでは要救助者を助けることはおろか、
She's not wrong.
自分の命も守れませんよ。
すまん。
それにどうしてすぐに私の指示に従わなかったのですか。
それはだがあの時はとっさにお前を守らなきゃと思って。
私を守る？生意気言わないでください。いつもの隊長ならともかく今のあなたにそんな力はありません。
Ouch. Very ouch. Something in Watase's head snapped at those words.
そういう言い方はないだろう。俺は俺なりに一生懸命。
俺は俺なりにですって。
She's about to put him in his place. Kazami's eyebrows twitched as she said that. She then grabbed him by the nape of his neck and pushed him against the wall.
命のかかったこの現状でそんな甘い考えが通用すると思っているのですか。自分なりに頑張りましたとか一生懸命やりましたとかそうした意思は意味を持ちません。今求められるのは正しい行動とそれを選び出す冷静さです。私たちは犬死にしに来たんじゃありません。命を救うために来たのですよ。
Her life is on the line too, you know.
有利さを発見した時も隊長は自らの力量も現状の危険性も顧みず炎の中に飛び込もうとしましたね。
Maybe.
おそらくそれもあなたなりに有利さんを助けようと思った結果の行動でしょう。しかし要救助者を助けるために自分の命を捨てるようなやつは英雄なんかじゃない。ただのバカ者だ。
There's some backstory here. There has to be.
これはかつて隊長がご自分でおっしゃった言葉じゃありませんか。
Oh.
そんなことも忘れてしまったあなたはただの一般人と同じです。
I was actually thinking that. I was like, you know, in all honesty, we should probably be back in the room with the other three, as opposed to out here with them. Watase couldn't say anything to that. He felt like he'd been handed an epiphany of how utterly powerless and foolish he'd been. He hung his head crestfallenly and let out a feeble reply.
すまなかった。俺の軽率な行動のせいでみんなを危険な目に遭わせちまって。
分かっていただければ良いのです。ですが隊長、私が今言ったことは絶対に忘れないでくださいね。
See, the problem is I have amnesia, so... Kazami let go of Watase's neck and said that. It was then that Jun nervously cut in.
副隊長、今日の隊長は仕方ないよ。いつもとは違うんだから。
そうですね。本来であれば、あんな軽率な行動は決してしない。
Kazami, don't look at me like that, please. Those words pierced Watase's heart. Also that look! She was right. The Watase Kasasagi of today was completely different from the normal Watase Kasasagi. So he wished that he could, at the very least, learn from his past self.
なあ、立花。普段の俺はどんなレスキュー隊員だったんだ？
そうですね。冷静で理知的で、とても慎重な方でした。
なんかそれヘタレっぽくないか？
とんでもない。隊長はどんな状況でも合理的な判断が下せる理想的なレスキュー隊員だったんです。
そうだね。まあ厳しいことは厳しかったけど筋は通ってたよね。
Okay.
そうだったんだ。
If someone as competent as Kazami was praising him this much, then he probably really had been a truly superb rescue worker. That thought alone made him curse his current self's
分かっ
incompetence.
たよ。とにかくこれからは安全を第一に考えるようにする。自分も含めてだ。
ええ、せめて記憶がいつもの調子が戻るまではそのようにお願いします。では訓戒はここまで。皆さんのところへ戻りましょう。
Kazami gave the order and started walking again. Watase and Jun followed behind her. His burnt left hand still ached under its glove. How pathetic. Watase thought over the situation. The normal Watase Kasasagi would have never screwed up as badly as he had just now. Then, what kind of relationship had he had with Kazami, his lieutenant? As he thought this, he suddenly looked at Jun, only to find she was looking at him too.
なんて顔してんのさ。
What kind of look do you have? Jun said that to Watase with a wry
ひ
smile.
でえ顔してたが。
うん、すごいへこんでる感じ。初めて見る表情だよ。
反省してんだよ。自分が情けなくて。
We're pretty pathetic.
今日は本当にいつもの体調と違うよね。言うことが私とそっくりだ。
そっくり？
実はね、
Oops, I cut him
私
off.
もしょっちゅうそういうことを思ってるんだ。私なんかにシリウスの隊員が務まんのかなってね。超人だらけだからさ、うちのチームって。
Her look.
隊長と副隊長を筆頭に。
超人か。残念ながら今の俺はそう呼ばれる資格はない。
Man, I think it's you today, Jun.
何言ってんのさ。記憶がまっさらなんだからそんなの当たり前じゃん。これで隊長が私より活躍したら私の立つ瀬がないよ。記憶がある分私の方がレスキュー隊の先輩みたいなもんなんだからね。
Fair enough.
そりゃそうかもしれないが。
まあ新人同士力を合わせて頑張っていこうよ。
And with that, Jun gave Watase a nice hard slap on the back. Is she being considerate of me? She may not choose her words wisely, but she's not a bad person at heart. Jun continued as those thoughts crossed Watase's mind.
まあいつまでもミスを引きずっちゃダメだよ。隊長のミスは私がフォローするから萎縮しないで頑張ってね。
Oh, thank you.
そうやってちょっとずつ勘取り戻していこう。
ありがとう。できるだけ早く追いつくから、それまではよろしく頼むよ、先輩。
Call her senpai.
おう、任せてよ、後輩。
Wow, okay. Watase and Jun broke out into a smile at that exchange. A strong feeling of reassurance broke through the clouds of self-pity covering Watase's heart. By the time Watase's group made it back to the inner ring, Enna and the others were waiting to greet them.
何かあったの？爆発音みたいな。
Yeah, you remember that fire thing we were talking about?
いや、バックドラフトってのを起こしちまってな。
Watase informed Enna, Ukita, and Yuri of what had transpired back in the outer ring.
外周島でそれほどの火災が？
どうした浮田さん、そんなに驚いて。
いや、想像していた以上に火災が広がっていると思ってね。
だね。こんなに広がると分かっていたら隊長も浮田さんを置き去りにしていかなかっただろうし。
俺もひどいことをしたもんだ。すまないな、浮田さん。
それはもういい。それより捜索を急いだ方がいいんじゃないかね。
じゃあ次は地下1階をって。あれ？
A puzzled look formed on June's face before she could finish her sentence.
椿山さん、浮田さん、ゆうりちゃんは？
Did you guys lose her? Taken aback with shock, everyone else looked around them. But Yuri was nowhere to be found.
どこに行ったんだ、ユーリは。
わからないわ。さっきまで一緒にいたのに。
ついさっきまでは目を離さずにいたんだ。本当だ。
Anna? Sure, I'll trust her for now.
逃げたの？どうして？
わかりませんが、まずいですよ、これは。
Yeah, that's not good.
ここは一人で出歩くには危険すぎます。
Anna gasped sharply at Kazami's words. Watase saw what appeared to be a look of guilt cover her face.
先生、すぐ探しに行くぞ。
そうね。まだ遠くへは行ってないはずだわ。
The two of them exchanged glances and simultaneously broke off into a run. They heard the other members of the group talking and taking off running soon after.
森部、浮田さん、我々も探しに行きますよ。了解。
あ、急ごう。
Watase turned to Enna as they dashed through the hallway.
先生、ユーリはどこに行ったと思う？
わからないわ。だけどセキュリティゲートが開いた音とかは聞こえなかったと思う。
It was then that Watase realized it. The security gates and doors to each laboratory made a sound whenever they opened or closed. You need to go through a security gate to get out of this area. And Yuri most likely doesn't have a card, which means she probably can't get out of this area.
先生、その辺にある小部屋の扉が開いた音は聞いたか？
それも聞いてないわ。
ということは。
There was only one answer. Anna's head suddenly shot upwards.
きっと上の階に向かったんだわ。
Unlike the mechanical sliding doors that stood in front of every other room, the stairwells had normal fireproof doors. If you were careful enough to open the door without making a sound, you could get away without anyone noticing.
行こう、先生。
The two nodded at each other and headed for the emergency staircase. When they got there,
いた。
Yuri was standing in that dim room. What are you doing, Yuri? Yuri froze with a jolt. Watase and Enna ran up the staircase and grabbed Yuri by the arm.
ユーリ、勝手にいなくなるなよ。心配したぞ。
I think she's afraid of Watase and is trying to escape him. I don't know why yet, though. Watase gently put his hand on Yuri's shoulder. Yuri hung her head like a dog that had been scolded.
ユーリさん、どうして一人で逃げたりしたの？
私怖くて。
Yeah, but why? Why?
怖いって何が？
Probably of who?
それは。
ユーリ、別に怒ったりしないから先生の質問に答えるんだ。
Watase let go of her arm and spoke with a kind voice. Yuri then nervously started talking as if she'd finally prepared herself.
そのさっきの爆発音が。
爆発音？それじゃあユーリさんはその音に驚いてここまで逃げてきたっていうの
？Watase and Enna looked at each other.
よほど怖がりなのかな。
Watase gave a wry smile and turned back to the door.
おいみんな、ユーリがいたぞ。
It wasn't long before they heard the sound of Kazami and the others running over. As soon as she got there, Kazami gave Yuri a stern glare.
ダメでしょユーリさん、一人で行動しては。
Don't yell at her. We already scolded her. Oh.
危険だって言ってるじゃないですか。あんまり勝手なことすると私も怒りますよ。
Kazami's not wrong though, right? She's worried about everyone's life and she's trying to make sure everyone is safe and I don't want to say where they need to be, but like so she can make sure that each location is secure, especially when her captain has amnesia. Aww. Yuri's voice trembled in the face of Kazami's harsh scolding. Watase quickly cut in.
ちょっと待ってくれ立花。あまり叱らないでやってくれるか。
なんですって？
ユーリは俺の起こしたバックドラフトの爆炎に驚いて思わず逃げてしまったらしいんだ。つまり言ってみりゃ俺のせいなんだよ。だからその
Yell at us instead. Watase said this nervously, seeing as how he'd been on the end of a scolding from Kazami himself just a few minutes ago. A troubled look appeared on her face.
そうですか。しかし一人で行動したらもっと危険ですよ。
そうだよユーリちゃん、私らと一緒にいるのが一番安全だよ。
僕も素人だがね、プロの言うことは聞いておいた方がいいと思う。
すみません。
Yuri was practically shrinking after every adult in the room scolded her at once.
まあまあ、どのみち地下1階に上がるところだったんだし、手間が省けたじゃないか。
体調は甘いです。こういうことが続くと助かる命も助けられません。
Well, I died once, so...
それはそうだが、でももう分かったよな、ユーリも。
She said this in a nearly inaudible voice. Even Kazami looked a bit embarrassed at herself.
分かればいいのです。それでは行きましょうか。
Kazami took Yuri's hand and ascended the staircase. Jun and Ukita followed after them. Last but not least, Watase and Anna began to walk up the stairs. Just then...
隊長さん。
What? Anna grabbed Watase's hand and whispered that.
どうした？
ユーリさんだけど、さっき追いかけてきたあなたを見てビクッとしてなかった。
Mm-hmm.
ああ、確かに。
Watase suddenly remembered something just as he said that. How she'd reacted earlier and her attitude up until this point.
っていうか実はさ、最初に会った時からなんか嫌われてるみたいなんだよ。
Mm-hmm.
嫌われてる？どうして？
いや、俺にもわからん。なんでなんだろう。
Watase started to wonder if Yuri had a problem with him or something. He looked at Anna's face and asked.
なあ先生、俺の顔って怖いかな？
怖いって別に。まあ普通の顔だわよ。若干間抜けな感じの。
Thanks.
言うね。
Watase asked another question as he felt the pain of Anna's retort in his heart.
しかし、どうやら顔が問題ってわけじゃないみたいだな。他に原因があるのかな。
なんでしょうね。思い当たることは？
No idea.
何もないんだが。そういや先生は教師だったな。生徒にわけもなく嫌われることってあるか？
Anna looks confused about Watase's question.
そんなことあるわけないじゃない。私、生徒に愛されてるし。
You sure about that?
ああ、そう。じゃあその秘訣は？
そうね。まあ強いて言うなら、子供たちに惜しみなく愛を注ぐことかしら。
Oh yeah? Is that what it is?
愛？
そうよ、愛。常に子供たちのことをおもんぱかり、目を配る。手間を惜しまず、労を厭わずね。多少押し付けがましくても、相手のことをちゃんと心から考えていれば、きっと気持ちも伝わるはずだから。
そういうものかね。
He couldn't say anything for sure since he didn't know what the normal Enna's relationship with her students was like, but he decided to keep that advice in mind. But at the same time, he noticed a gaping hole in Enna's speech and decided to exploit it.
でも先生よ、常に子供に目を配ってる割にはユーリが逃げたことには気づかなかった。
Oh, ouch.
痛いところつくわね。だからちょっと落ち込んでたのよ。
まあこれからはお互いユーリには常に目を配っておこうぜ。
あなたに言われなくても分かってるわよ。
The two of them reached the top of the stairs by the time Enna had finished saying that, and officially reached floor B1. Area 3, Inner Ring B1. There were no signs of a fire there. The Procyon reading was only 1792 MSV, so it posed no threat on that front either.
どうやら今のところこのフロアは安全のようだな。では引き続き二手に分かれて捜索を行うかね。
いちいちチームを決め直すのも時間が惜しいわ。早く捜索に入りましょう。
そうだね。相変わらず AD も見つかってないし。
You guys okay?
では我々が外周塔を、森部たちは内周塔をお願いします。
No one offered any objections. Like last time, they split into teams of Watase, Kazami, Yuri, and Jun, Ukita, Enna, and began their search of Area 3, B1. First, Watase headed towards the outer ring with Kazami and Yuri. But when they tried to open the security gate and the connecting passageway that led to the outer ring, it refused to accept the card. It was a level 3 gate, so a level 4 card should have been more than enough to open it. But even after they put the card in the slot again, the door still wouldn't open.
そう。壊れてるみたいだ。他の通路から入れるか。
確認します。
Kazami said this and took out the map she'd drawn earlier.
現在位置がここ。そしてここの扉が開かないと。で、この第2エリア側からの通路もセキュリティスロットが消失していて入れませんで
Well,
した。
that's not good.
そういえばここの階段も崩れてたから別の階から行くことはできないな。
となると遠回りになりますが、第4エリア側から入るしかないようですね。
ますますまずいな。AD が足りないってのに。
Yeah, we need some AD. Soon. They only had 10 minutes left until the effects of their last AD shot wore off.
せめてあと1本でもあればな。
A shy voice spoke up after Watase had muttered this.
どうした？
いよいよになったら私が投与を諦めればいいんじゃないか。
No, we don't need to do that.
何言ってるんですか、ユーリさん。あなたにそんなことはさせられません。
Yuri trembled with a start.
そうだぞユーリ。その時はむしろ俺が。
Wait, why is she with us?
いえ、そういうことを考えるのは
Or no?
タイムリミット
Yeah, that's right. That was the initial. Sorry, I was thinking about when we had the backdraft situation, but that was different. We finished scouring the area, then we met up with them. They were arguing. Got it. It's been a minute since I've played this same episode, right?
そうか。
それより一旦内周塔に戻りましょう。時間が惜しいです。
Kazami quickly started walking off, followed closely by Watase and Yuri. But Watase felt something was off about Yuri. What was it about her that's so strange? She was by no means being uncooperative with the search. True, she was very scared, but there was also a kind part of her that tried to put others before herself, like he'd seen just now. So then, why did she try to run off by herself? He remembered the look Yuri had given him when they'd first seen each other. She had definitely been afraid when she saw him. Could it be that she's still scared of me? But if that's the case, then why? But just as Watase thought this... Uh-oh. He heard an ear-piercing scream. Ear-piecing scream. I've misread stuff, but at least this one was mistyped.
今のは
ちの声。
Yuri was speaking in a loud voice for the first time in what seemed like ages.
行きましょう。
Kazami broke off into a fierce dash without even a moment's hesitation. Watase took Yuri by the hand and followed suit. They turned a corner to find Jun and the others backing out of a room.
隊長
What happened?
どうした？何があったんだ？
What? Ukita in particular seemed quite shaken up, as he started muttering nigh incomprehensibly upon seeing Watase and the others.
皆さん、落ち着いてください。一体何事ですか？
It was then that Anna mumbled in a dazed shock, her face pale.
死体
What?
死体がたくさん
That many? All the air in the hallway froze at that moment.
先生、死体って。
あの部屋の中に
そうしたいでしょうか？
The image of Natsuhiko and the others, their bodies horribly charred, passed through Watase's mind for a moment. But Jun shook her head.
違うんだよ。それならまだわかるんだけど。
それってどういう？
What are you talking about?
あの部屋に入ればわかるよ。
Jun looked to the nearby door with a confounded look on her face. The door was already shut, but they could still smell what appeared to be rust coming from it. What's that stench? No sooner had the thought crossed Watase's mind than he was gripped with an inexplicable feeling of terror. He took a big gulp and prepared himself.
ユーリは下がってた方がいい。
Yuri nodded with a frozen look on her face.
隊長、副隊長、いい？
Probably not. Are you guys ready?
ええ。
Oh, here we go. Jun walked up to the room and opened the door. Whoa! That's not just gunshot wounds, that's like body contortion. The first thing that flooded into his eyes was red. The room was dyed with the color of blood. Lying close by Watase's feet in that pool of blood were two crumpled bodies. And there was one more body deeper in the room. A body wearing the same kind of radiation protection suit that Kazami and Jun had shown him earlier. The second he saw it, Kazami shouted.
そんな。あれは、あの死体は。
Jun nodded with a look of grief on her face and answered.
堂島先輩だよ。
Oh my god, what happened here? Watase gasped at those words. Though he didn't remember the name, the fact that Jun did meant...
まさかあの人は俺たちの。
彼は我々と同じ A チームのメンバーです。
どうしてこんなことに。
Kazami and Jun fell to their knees right then and there. What the hell is this? Watase had expected that any bodies he would find in this facility would be those who had been burned to death. But this was clear, that clearly wasn't the case here. Oh my god, this kind of stuff just makes my brain go in 100 different directions. Like, what is happening? You know what I mean? The corpses had lost their lives at the hands of others. Yes, they had clearly been murdered.
一体ここで何が。
No one answered that question. Watase just stood frozen in a daze in that room filled with the stench of blood. People had been trapped in a facility with a melted down nuclear reactor. He thought that was the worst that things could get. They were already in a hell where a moment's distraction could lead to death. But perhaps fire and radiation were not the only threats to the group's lives out here. There were 8 more hours until the lockdown was lifted. The life and death drama they were all a part of had only just begun. Ooh. What? I'm getting a title card now? I've been playing for almost 3.5 hours. What? I mean, great, I guess, but really? Oh my god. Okay, I'm not going to be able to catch any of these names right before. Nazuka Kaori. I don't know if I know that name. Okay. So much stuff happening though. Ooh, I don't like some of these pictures though. People looking crazy. I like the song. It's probably gonna get flagged, but I hope not because I got permission to play this game. It better be fine. Oh my god. What is gonna happen? Yeah, everything's too fast. I can't pull any information from this. Can you stand to face the truth until the bitter end? Probably not. Why am I getting... Is it credits? Am I done? Did I beat it? Is that what happened? After chapter 2, 8 hours until lockdown is lifted. Okay. Watase kept himself from shivering and took in the terrifying spectacle that lay before his very eyes. The bodies at his feet were wearing what appeared to be white lab coats. Oh my god, they are! I thought they were like burgundy jackets. They are lab coats drenched in blood. It wasn't strange for there to be researchers in this facility. What was strange was the fact that their bodies were full of countless bullet holes. They were shot? Given that they were lying with their heads turned towards the door, it was possible that they'd been trying to escape from the room. The various sized holes in the body, especially the big ones in their stomachs, exposed their innards. The organ that had shaped whom they once were now oozed out of their split heads, leaving a slimy stain on the floor. He instinctively looked away from the horrible evidence of how the men had died. But further in the room was the other body, the remains of the rescue worker who Kazami and Jun called Dojima. His case was even stranger. His limbs were bent in unnatural directions, the fingers broken at their bases as if they'd been tortured. Flesh from the nape of his neck had been torn off, blood oozing from out of it, and the bones also appeared to have been twisted and crushed. His face was warped in agony, and his tongue was sticking out of his mouth in a slovenly manner. What the hell is this? What could have happened to cause him to die like this? It was hard to believe any human could have done this. It looked more like he'd been grabbed and casually crushed by a giant hand. It didn't feel as if any person could have done an act so horrific. It was more like the work of a monster or something. But the whole thing in general was strange. Why was it that those who had been shot to death while this one had died differently? Kazami answered, quietly rising to her feet. When Watase looked at the room more closely, he realized there were several objects that appeared to be broken equipment. Okay. Watase picked it up and pressed its switch. But it didn't respond at all. It looked like one of the bullets had shot the motor right out. There were 2 broken ampules lying nearby. They're broken though. One of them had been smashed, like someone had stepped on it. The other one was still in its original form, but the container was cracked, the liquid inside leaking out. Kazami picked up the cracked AD and said that. Just then, June broke her
堂
silence.
島先輩もこの人たちにそれを投与してたのかな。
そうかもしれませんね。堂島も彼らを保護し脱出を図ってたのでしょう。
私たちと同じだね。でもこんなのってないよ。どうして堂島先輩が殺され
I
なきゃ
got
なら
nothing.
ないの？
I got nothing. This is like, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a certain visual novel where things get real fast. This one happened a lot sooner though. But yeah, that's what it's reminding me of, is a certain visual novel that probably those of you will know when it hits the fan, it has like a scene like this, right? Watase could say nothing as he watched Jun say that and hang her head. He wasn't sad. It didn't feel real to him. It was like an event that that had happened in a TV show, even though it was his very own squad mate who was dead. To the now amnesiac Watase, the death of his supposed squad mate, Dojima, felt the same as the death of a total stranger. And he hated himself for that. Kazami gently wrapped her arms around Jun's shoulders as the latter bit her lips.
考えすぎてはダメです。檜山の遺体がないところを見ると彼はまだ生きているはずです。
I hope so.
せめてそれを救いとしましょう。ひとまず出ましょうか。これ以上ここに長居するのは私も辛いですから。
Watase and Jun nodded and headed for the door with Kazami. Kazami and Jun gave a small salute before they exited. Their final send-off to their colleague who had been killed under mysterious circumstances. All Watase did was just stand by and watch them. But the moment that they left the room, Ukita grabbed Watase by the collar.
おい隊長さん、一体ここで何があったんだ。
I don't know.
3人も殺され、削岩機まで壊されて。君が何か知ってるんじゃないのか。言うんだ。
I have amnesia?
そんなこと俺にわかるわけないだろう。
Kazami frantically pulled Ukita off of him.
浮田さん、どうか落ち着いてください。我々だって同僚が殺されて混乱しているんです。
無茶言うな、こんな状況で。
But before Ukita could continue his ranting and raving,
やめてください。
Yuri! A tearful voice echoed around them.
ユーリ。
暴れたりしないで。人はそこで死んでいるんでしょ。もしまたそんなことが起きたら。
It was the first time Watase had ever seen a look like that on Yuri's face. It was still strained with fear, but there was a clear, fierce will in her eyes. Rationality returned to Ukita's eyes as soon as he heard her.
すまない。僕としたことが取り乱してしまって。仕方ないさ。
ところで、あの研究員の方々は浮田さんの知り合いだったのですか？
いや、実は知らないんだ。仕方ないだろう。部署が違えば顔を合わせる機会なんてめったにないんだから。
I mean, fair enough. It's a pretty big facility. There was something about Ukita's explanation that didn't sit right with Watase. If he didn't know them, then why was he getting so worked up for it? But Enna suddenly cut in.
それにしてもどうして彼らは殺され
I
たのかしら。
wonder if Ukita and Watase had some kind of agreement before, but then he lost his memory, but like Ukita's thinking he was just playing, and then this happened and it wasn't according to plan. But I don't know. I'm still not sure what's going on yet.
AD を奪おうとしてとか。
No, it was broken.
いや、それは多分違う。AD はあの部屋に残されていたからな。それより犯人はなぜ拳銃なんか持っているんだ。そっちの方が俺は気になる。
確かに
Ukita's eyes suddenly widened in shock at the moment.
みんな気をつけた方がいい。犯人はこの施設の中に残っているかもしれない。
Oh, they're definitely trapped in here with us. What are you talking about?
あの3人が隔壁が閉まってから殺されたとしたら。
Which, I mean, a rescue worker wouldn't be there before it happened, right?
当然犯人も我々と同じくこの施設の中に閉じ込められているということになる。もし銃を持ってる者がラボ内をうろついているとしたら、僕らの命を脅かすのは火災と放射線だけじゃない。
Exactly.
何言ってるのよあなた。それってまさか私の生徒たちを疑ってるんじゃないでしょうね。
No, not specifically. They weren't heavily armed when they were in that video.
いや、そんなつもりはない。子供たちにあんな残酷なことができるわけはないだろう。だが危険人物が施設内にいるかもしれないんだ。
And I really trust both of them, to be honest with you.
捜索のためとはいえ不用意に動かない方がいいかもしれないぞ。
はあ？甘ったれたこと言わないでよ。だからこそ早く生徒たちを探さなきゃいけないのに。
I mean, they're both kind of right. I don't know who to side with on this one. Watase frantically cut in just as it looked like another argument was about to start.
先生、落ち着くんだ。浮田さんは別に間違ったことは言っちゃいないだろう。
なんですって。
Oh, I lost a point with Anna, apparently.
バカじゃないの？
I might be an idiot. I mean, I have amnesia. I can't remember.
バカだって。
犯人も閉じ込められていると考えるのは明らかに早計でしょ。犯人だって放射線や火災は怖いはずなのに、わざわざレスキュー隊の人間を殺す必要がどこにあるのよ。
それは確かにそうだな。
Watase found himself shutting up at Enna's logic, with Kazami soon backing her up.
それにあの隊員が持っていた AD が破壊されていました。もし隔壁が閉まった後に彼らが殺されたのなら AD を破壊するわけがありません。あの3人は隔壁が閉じる前に殺されたのでしょう。犯人の目的などは分かりませんが、だったら彼らを殺した後でも十分に逃げる時間があります。
Kazami's tone was calm, but her eyes were wavering. She too was grieving, and yet there she was, desperately reprimanding Ukita and Enna.
しかし僕はこの施設の職員として君たちの安全をだね。
ですからもう犯人は逃げたのです。そう考えるべき。
I don't know. But before Kazami could say any more, a beep suddenly echoed through the hallway.
何の音だ？
ああ、私の腕時計のアラームです。 AD の投与時間に鳴るようセットしておきました。
Oh, wonderful. Taken aback, Watase checked his watch. The digital reading said 10:16 a.m. on it.
前回の AD が切れていない方もいるかと思いますが、安全を期し一緒に投与することにしましょう。
We're gonna be short one.
そうか。議論は置いておいて、とりあえずみんな投与しよ
う。命がかかってるもんね。
Jun seemed to have come back to her senses, and she quickly distributed AD to Enna, Ukita, and Yuri. Enna and Ukita injected themselves immediately.
これでまた1時間は大丈夫なのよね。
ああ。
Enna and Ukita muttered that. But Yuri and Yuri alone still hadn't injected herself for some reason.
ユーリさん、どうしたのですか？
Yeah, she didn't want to do it last time either, did she?
またそんなことをおっしゃっているのですか？わかりました。ならば私が撃ちましょう。
嫌です。
いけません。
Just like last time, Kazami injected Yuri with AD without hearing the latter out. But there were only 2 AD left. Watase, Kazami, and Jun exchanged glances.
早速足りなくなっちゃったね。
どうする？
どうするって決まっています。隊長と森部が投与してください。
No.
なんで俺たちが？
隊長のお体はまだ万全ではないでしょう。無理をさせるわけにはいきません。
I'm gonna save because I definitely want them to inject themselves first because we don't know how long ago Watase injected himself, so we may have more time.
そして森部は我々の中で一番体が小さいです。放射線への耐性も低いと考えるべきでしょう。
でも副隊長はどうするの？
Once Jun asked this, Kazami held out something to her and Watase.
これを使います。
It was the damaged ampule that had been lying near Dojima's body just minutes ago. Only half of it still remained, the other half having leaked out through the cracks in the container.
バカな。そんな中途半端な量で体を保護しきれるのか。
What if it puts like glass into your body or something?
どうでしょう、浮田さん。
どうだろうか。薬剤の量が半減すれば効果も半減しそうなものだが、あるいは有効時間が半分になるのか、正直僕にもわからない。
しかしこの量でも使わないより使った方がいいのですね。
ああ、それはそうだな。
ちょっと待ってよ。いくらなんでも危険すぎるよ。
Jun showed her Prokion to Kazami.
プロキオンの数値は現在2035ミリシーベルト。今でも命に関わる線量の上、さらに上昇してるんだよ。
そうだ。もしその AD の効果がちゃんと発揮されなかったらお前は被爆して。
ではどうすればいいのですか？事実として AD は足りないのです。
I'll take the half. I'll do it.
あなた方がどう言おうと私はこの破損した AD を投与します。
でも
口答えするな森部。
Yeah, definitely saving. But I don't agree with her on this one. I'm gonna bring her down just a little bit and we'll see what happens. Kazami's angry shouts echo through the hallway as if to ward off Jun's pleas.
これは命令です。つべこべ言ってる時間が惜しい。今この瞬間にも我々は被爆しているのです。私を心配するのなら直ちに AD を投与し捜索を続行してください。
Again, her logic is sound. I'm not saying it's not, but I don't want her to die. Kazami's face was brimming with determination. When Watase and Jun saw that, they realized that there was no use trying to persuade her. Oh, we're just gonna... How did that... I thought I turned her down and... Alright, whatever. Watase and Jun hurriedly injected themselves with AD. Kazami also injected herself with the damaged AD. She then turned to Ukita and the others and spoke.
お騒がせしました。これで AD の投与が済みましたね。
そうね。
They were most likely still taken aback from seeing the altercation between the rescue workers. Ukita and the others were now quiet, like their fight mere minutes ago had never happened.
では大きなトラブルがありましたが今後のことを話しましょう。
Get roadblock like mass murder? Kazami spoke with a calm voice, betraying none of the anxiety she must have felt from her co-worker's death and the lack of AD.
まず第3エリアはおよそ捜索が終了しましたが B1 の外周灯だけは未捜索です。しかしセキュリティスロットが壊れていて入れません。そこで第4エリアに進もうと思うのですが要救助者の方々大丈夫でしょうか？
大丈夫とは何がだね。
遺体を見た直後で捜索を続行するということについて
To check the other rooms.
精神的に大丈夫かということです。
Ukita and Yuri gasped at those words, but in contrast, Enna replied in a subdued tone.
決まってるわよ。
She's gonna try and find her students. Yeah.
そうか。だったら一緒に行こ
う。しかしやはり犯人がうろついている可能性が。
まだ言っているの浮田さん。動くのは危険だというのはわかるし、ここでのんびりしているのは勝手よ。でも動かなければ死を待つだけかもしれないわよ。
そう。それに AD も現状0本だ。
Yeah, we're at 0.
捜索の手は一人でも多い方がいい。
副隊長さんの身のこともあるしね。自分たちの AD を確保するためにも捜索を手伝うべきじゃないかしら。
確かにな。
Ukita reluctantly nodded. It seemed even he, with all his stubbornness, had realized just how harsh the situation was.
ユーリちゃんはどうする？
私も一緒に行きます。
確かにその方が何かと安全でしょう。我々の目の届くところに全員い
Yeah,
た方がいい。
hopefully nothing horrible happens, right? Kazami then turned her head. She was looking at the Area 4 connecting passageway.
では次のエリアに進みましょう。幸いあちらのセキュリティ端末は無事なようですので。
あ、
And with that low voice, the group started walking off again. The group opened the security gate and walked through the connecting passageway. They were totally out of AD, and they were still in the situation that left no margin for error. It's not just for Tachibana, it's an issue that we all need to think about in the next hour. Yeah, I trust her. Whatever it is, I trust her. The last time they'd taken AD was set at 10:16 a.m. They had to find 6 or more AD by the time their effects wore off at 11:16 a.m. Even though they had just learned that their coworker died, there was no time to grieve. That was probably why Kazami was putting on such a brave face. Watase quietly walked over to her and whispered,
立花、お前本当に大丈夫なのか？
隊長、私への気遣いは無用です。それよ
But we
り
do
ご
care.
自分の心配を。
分かった。先を急ごう。
ええ。
Watase and Kazami said this, and then broke off into a run down the connecting passageway. But the moment they rounded the corner, everyone came to a dead stop. Whoa! That part of the passageway was partially flooded. A fire hose had been left lying around not too far ahead. Water poured out of it, creating a puddle in the passageway.
どうしたのよ、水たまりくらい。 さっさと先に進みましょうよ。
Anna, you're going to die.
いや、よく見ろよ、先生。
Watase pointed to the wall. Part of it had collapsed, most likely due to an explosion. Something that appeared to be disconnected cable jutted out of there, touching the puddle and shooting sparks.
発電線。
なんだこれは。なぜこんなことに。
誰かが消火でもしようとして偶然こうなったのでしょうか。
Coincidence? Could something like this really have happened naturally? He thought this for a second, but then chose not to say anything.
まあ原因はどうあれ、進む方法をまず考えよう。
Watase stared at the puddle intently. It was about 5 or so meters wide. If one were to get past that and pull the cable out of the puddle, then everyone else could walk through it normally. But the problem was that it was right in front of the curve, meaning there wasn't any room to get a running start. Watase took some lint out of his pocket and threw it into the puddle as a test. Woohoo! That alone caused fierce sparks to flash.
いや、足でも突っ込んだら死んじまうな。
Yeah.
他に第4エリアへ行く道はないのかしら。
あるはずです。遠回りになりますが迂回しましょう。
As soon as Kazumi said that, words poured out of Watase's head on instinct.
待て、時間が惜しい。
どういうおつもりで？
なーに、助走なしで5メートルなら、俺ならまるで問題ない距離だ。
What? What if we throw somebody to the other side? Like all these girls seem like they'd be kind of light. Maybe we could just chuck one of them over the puddle? Watase said those words with a kind of confidence in him. Not only are we pressed for time, but Tachibana and Moribe must be reeled down after just having lost their squad mate. So I've got to do something myself in order to rally them up. He wanted to get rid of the depressed atmosphere that had taken hold of them, even if it meant braving such a great danger.
全員、ちょっと通路を開けてくれ。ほら、浮田さんも先生もだ。
Watase forced everyone to move to the edge of the passageway, clearing enough space for him.
隊長、まさか。
June shouted at once as she realized what Watase was up to. Watch me, Moribe. Watase ran right up to the puddle with the initial velocity of a 3-step running start and jumped. Pale sparks flew at his feet as soon as he landed. Watase flinched for a moment, but the shock he was expecting never came. Most likely because the only part of him that landed in the puddle was his soles. They were probably made of rubber or something. He heard Kazami calling out for him from behind. I thought that was going to be a whole thing. Watase then proceeded to pull the cable out of the puddle. Oh god, Jun, be careful. Jun approached the puddle just as Watase said, then stepped in it as softly as he possibly could. But nothing happened. As soon as they heard that, everyone ran through the puddle and up to Watase. I had a heart attack and I didn't even do anything. Her smile gets me. The gloom that had covered Jun's face just minutes ago had receded greatly. Watase breathed a mental sigh of relief, then turned to his thoughts. Was it that face that gave me the confidence to think I could pull it off? Then it appeared as if his courage and willpower. It was his courage and willpower that determined whether or not he could act. But unlike everyone else, Kazami's reaction was cold. Oh, come on. Stop quoting me to me. Though Kazami's tone of voice was composed, there was a fiery anger behind her words. She stares daggers right into my soul. Kazami said nothing and glared at Watase. The rest of the group watched the proceedings from a distance. Finally, Kazami broke the silence with a sigh. She cares. Yep, let's go. Kazami looked away from Watase in a huff and started walking off. I get in trouble a lot. No matter how much strength and courage he had, unless he could make sound decisions, he was merely putting his own life in danger. That was probably what Kazami was trying to say. Well, it may have gotten me another lecture, but I'm glad that Tachibana and Moribe look like they're feeling better now. Watase and the others followed Kazami as that thought passed through his head. The group entered Area 4's inner ring on floor B1. What they found there was essentially the spitting image of Area 3. Jun checked her Procyon. I hope we find some 80s soon. But before Watase could say any more, a voice suddenly came out of his PDA. What? Kazami quickly reacted to Watase's surprise. Watase frankly took his PDA out and replied. I can't hear everything. The radio waves were clearly in worse condition than they'd been in the earlier call. The commander started relaying orders with what little he could get through. Should we be telling them this?
聞こえるか？堂島隊員と研究員2名の他殺体を発見したんだ。
Yep.
死体には銃創があった。殺人者は外に逃げているかもしれない。施設から出てきた人間の中に銃を持っている奴がいないか調べてくれ。聞こえてるか？繰り返すぞ。施設から出てきた人間の中に銃を持っている奴がいないか調べてくれ。
Okay, I think they got it. It seemed he'd managed to get the abnormality of the situation through to the commander. Uh-oh. What is it? The commander went for a change of plans, speaking without waiting for any response. I got nothing.
何？司令長、聞こえん。繰り返してくれ。
It's probably Yuri, right? We're supposed to protect her. She's some kind of special research project, and so she doesn't need the AD, is what I'm thinking. Okay.
少女保護。有利のことだな。
Okay.
協力して要救助者を助けろってんだな。
This is gonna come back and this is gonna be something completely different, right? Right? Watase glanced at Kazami and Jun, who both gave him deep nods.
わかった。任せろ。
The transmission cut there. Watase put his PDA away and turned to the rest of the group.
みんな聞いたか？
No, I couldn't catch any of it.
言うまでもないことです。早速第4エリアの捜索を行いましょう。
ねえ浮田さん、ここはどんなエリアなの？
ああ、ここは電子計算機棟と呼ばれているエリアだ。
Okay.
情報処理を主に扱っている部署でブレインセルというスーパーコンピューターがある。
スーパーコンピューター？それはどこに？
筐体そのものは外周塔にあるが、制御はこの内周塔から行う。こっちだ。ついてきてくれ。
Alright, let's find this brain, I guess. The group trailed behind Ukita as he led the way. He guided them to a nearby door that read System Control Room. As soon as he opened the door, a sight of giant screens built into the walls flooded their eyes. Vast amounts of what appeared to be data flickered on and off at dizzying speeds.
なんか作戦指令本部って感じだね。
これはどういう機械なの？
ああ、ブレインセルはこのラボで扱っている全情報を一括処理しているんだ。
全情報っていうとどこからどこまでのことを言うんだ？
実験データの解析演算から
It's a supercomputer.
空調、上下水道などのインフラシステムの処理まで全てだよ。
So if this goes rogue, everything's screwed.
ケース
Got
M 中
it.
でもしかりだ。こちらの数字を見てくれ。
Ukita pointed to some numbers on the edge of the screen. The time 1816 and the number 14581 MSV were sitting there side by side.
18時16分というのが核兵器が解放される予想時刻だ。
Okay.
あとざっと8時間か。
Whew, we're not gonna make it.
司令長の説明と大体一致するみたいだね。
現在うちの技術者たちが地上からシステム復旧作業を行っているという話だが、そのデータを分析し、復旧作業が終わって核兵器が解放されるであろう時刻を算出しているんだ。
予想時刻より早く核壁が解放される可能性はあるの？
Doubt it.
難しいだろう。復旧に必要な処理の大半はブレインセルが自ら行っている。そのブレインセル自身が予想した時刻だ。人為的ミスなどで遅くなることはあっても早くなるとは思えん。
Oh, great. So it can be slower, but not fast.
そうか。じゃあこっちの14581ミリシーベルトっていう数字は？
それは
Ukita hesitated for a moment before he spoke.
N エリアの放射線量だ。
何？ N エリアはここまで汚染が進んで。
It's pretty bad. Watase shuddered. The thought that nearly 15,000 MSV of radiation was floating around Area N left him unable to even breathe. It was a land of death where even a single step would most likely cost one their life.
N エリアの占領系はどうやらまだ生きているみたいだね。むしろ知らない方が良かったかもしれないが。
いや、知っておくに越したことはない。
Yeah, I was gonna say, at least we don't go into that area dying.
必要だ。
そうか。そこがこのラボの象の足だね。
What?
象の足？
チェルノブイリ原発事故の時に最も放射線量が高かった場所だよ。最大線量が約8万ミリシーベルト。そこに近づいた人間はほんの数秒で死んだって言われている。それに比べれば今回のはまだマシだけど。
N エリアに入ったらただじゃ済まないってのは間違いないだろうな。
The difference between 15,000 MSV and 80,000 MSV didn't mean a whole lot when it came to radiation. They were both still extremely lethal doses. Both Chernobyl and Labo were crazy worlds where abnormal levels of radiation flew around
と
freely.
もかくこんな最悪の状況下でもブレインセルが生きててくれたのは良かった。セキュリティゲートの開閉もここで行っている。これが壊れると捜索もままならないからな。
ゲートの開放も？ということは隔壁の開閉についてはここから操作できませんか？
Maybe. Everyone's eyes widened when they heard Kazami's proposal.
浮田さん、できそうか？
わからんがかけてみる価値はありそうだ。
Ukita walked up to the control booth and spoke.
ここは僕に任せ、君らは捜索を続けてくれ。全員
fair
で
enough.
ここにいる意味はないからな。
よし、それじゃあ俺たちはその間に第4エリアの捜索をしておこう。
ええ、お願いするわよ、浮田さん。
Yeah, don't die on us, alright? The group left Ukita behind and exited the system control room. As soon as they left, Kazami addressed the others.
ではまた二手に分かれましょう。
メンバー分けは？
まずユーリさんは私と一緒に行動しましょう。責任を持ってお預かりします。
Okay?
とはいえほとんど何もしなくていいですからね。安全確実な状況でのみ捜索を手伝ってくだされば結構です。
Yuri obediently nodded her head.
じゃあ残りは私のチームだね。
Sounds good to me.
確かにこれならバランスが良さそうね。
では我々がここ地下1階を捜索するのでそちらのチームは地下2階をお願いします。
おう、きっとすぐ AD を見つけてお前に渡してやるからな。
お願いします。
Aw, look at that smile. With those words serving as a signal to all of them, the group split up to begin their search. Watase, Jun, and Enna quickly went down the stairwell so that they could get down to B2. But the emergency staircase had completely collapsed.
これじゃ降りられない。
レスキュー隊の私らはともかく椿山さんがここを降りるのは危険だね。
外周塔にも非常階段があるはずだわ。そっちから降りましょう。
Everyone nodded at Enna's suggestion and left the room. They then hurried over to the outer ring stairwell. Fortunately, the stairs were still intact.
よーし、こっちから降りられそうよ。
But, to be accurate, the stairs weren't totally in one piece. The ones that led to the surface had been destroyed, leaving only the B1 to B2 staircase
し
intact.
かしなんであちこち階段が壊れちまってるんだ。
今は気にしてもあんま意味ないよ。どの道あの階段を上がった先には隔壁があるんだから。
Yeah, I mean,
地上
true.
に続く階段で無事なのは第2エリアのやつだけだね。
The group descended the staircase as they talked. However, Watase twitched as soon as he began walking down.
なんか熱くないか？
Uh-oh.
そういえば
Uh-oh.
これ下燃えてるね。
June reached the final step as soon as she said that. On the other side of the door was floor B2. They could feel the heat and hear some sort of bursting sound coming from it. Watase checked the door with his PDA's IRT scanner to be safe, only to find that the fireproof door was bright red.
待て。俺が開ける。
Watase said that and nervously opened the door. Ooh! A hot wind blew in his face the moment he opened it.
予想以上だな。
これは副隊長を呼んでこなきゃ消化できそうにない。
But at that moment, a strange sound rang out as though it were trying to cut off Jun.
何の音だ？
プロキオンの警告音だよ。
Watase dumbfoundedly took his Prokion out. The reading was at 4,331 MSV, past the first danger standard.
なんで急に数値が？ここは汚染が激しいのか？
まずいわ、逃げましょう。
待って、この程度なら AD があれば問題ない数値のはずだよ。
そうだったらこの火を消して。
Enna looked out into the fire at that moment, and when she did, her eyes suddenly widened.
どうした？
Watase followed Enna's somewhat astonished gaze. What he found was... a girl standing on the other side of the flames. Okay, I'm gonna leave this episode right here because things are about to happen. I know it. So we're gonna save and find out who this girl is, what she's doing. Well, it's one of the students, right? It's one of Enna's students. But like, what is going on? Why is she here? Why is she bandaged? I want to know, but we'll find out next time. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you enjoyed. I'll see you guys on the next MAMJ. Let's play.